What's going on, fam? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be ranking the top 5 speed boots of 2024 so far. With new speed boots on the horizon, this list is bound to change for the second half of the year, but I thought I would make a part 1 before we see all these new speed boots come onto the market. Let's hop into it. We start off with the 15th generation of the Vapor Elite. Now, I'm sort of putting Vapor and Superfly all in one category. It's basically the same boot. Well, it is the same boot, except for the little bit of fly knit around the collar area. So the Vapor 15 Elite comes to us with a Vaporposit Plus upper with a speed cage, which is the internal liner of the Vaporposit, giving it a really interesting Roman sandal-esque lockdown per the marketing. And of course, you have the air zoom unit on the sole plate with some triangular star-shaped studs on the bottom, giving an incredibly locked in and aggressive feeling when you're playing football. It's got a really nice barefoot feeling on feet as well. Overall, a really excellent package from the Nike brand. Now moving on to the Adidas brand, we have a couple entries to this speed boot list. First off is the top end Crazy Fast Plus. Now the Crazy Fast Plus has an Aeropacity Speed Skin Plus upper. It's got the aero cage on the inside, similar to the Vapor, sort of an internal cage that gives you a really nice locked in sensation. And then of course you have the speed frame with the aero plate inside, which essentially gives what used to be a carbon fiber feeling. Now it's more of a plasticky or synthetic feeling, but you still get a really nice snapback and energy return from that sole plate. Overall, a really cool piece of technology as a football boot and a super, by the way, the thinnest upper on the market. Now we move to their second tier of football boots, which is the Crazy Fast Point 1 and Crazy Fast Point 1 LL or laceless. These two boots are identical, except one has laces and one does not. The collar construction is slightly different because of the lacelessness and the lacedness of each of those models. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm really only going to talk about the Point 1 model with laces because I think that's the most speed boot out of them. You get a slightly thicker version of the Aeropacity Speed Skin as opposed to the Plus model, and then you get the exact same sole plate as the Plus model, which is the speed frame outsole with the aero plate on the inside. So many different names. This boot is a really nice addition. It's got a nice amount of lockdown. It's got a pretty nice fit, although the shape in the midfoot's a little wonky compared to the forefoot area, but overall a pretty decent boot that a lot of pros today wear. Next, we move on to Under Armour, which just came out with the second generation of the Shadow series. So it's the Shadow Elite 2.0, a very cool and technologically advanced sole plate. They have the same carbon fiber sole plate from the previous generation developed with F1 drivers and F1 companies. You also have the Intellinet upper with the exo mesh on the lateral and medial sides of the midfoot, giving it a really nice and comfortable wrap around your foot, while also continuing the performance that you got from the first generation, which had a double layer upper. With this one layer upper, with this one piece upper of the knit, you get a really nice and close wrap around your foot while also giving you a really nice touch on the ball. It's a super unique football boot, but once you get your foot in, you'll really understand what Under Armour was going for with this football boot. You also have a carbon fiber sole plate, which looks insane. Next up, we have the Mizuno brand, which has several entries to this speed boot list. First, we have the Alpha Elite and Alpha Made in Japan. Very, very similar football boots. For the sake of this video, we'll just be talking about the Made in Japan model, which has a layered synthetic upper. You've got all of the Zero Glide technology on the inside, which is essentially this material that makes it really difficult for socks and anything you're wearing to slip, which is excellent. It gives you a super locked in fit and feel. And then of course you got the rear foot NRZ cushioning, which is a nice little, almost like a air bubble, almost like air zoom in a little ways. It's a little bit less sort of bouncy than that, I guess, but it does give you a little bit of padding. And then of course with the forefoot of the sole plate, you also get that Carvo insert. The Alpha is probably one of the most underappreciated boots on the market. I don't see a lot of players wearing them, even if of course, there aren't that many pros wearing them either, but that's just more of a marketing thing. But I would expect that if a lot of people in the football world went away from Nike, Adidas, and Puma, and they stepped into an Alpha, they would find that the Alpha is actually a much more approachable product that's, number one, more comfortable, but also really highly performing. Now we move on to the Neo series from the Mizuno line. This is the Neo 4 non-beta version, the made in Japan version. It comes with a standard U-throat tongue. You have the BF synthetic material in the midfoot, and then the forefoot is the Mizuno, the iconic Mizuno premium K-leather. Now, a very, very comfortable boot overall. I think it is more accommodating than the beta version, which makes it really sought after. It's actually really hard to find them nowadays because they sell out so quickly when they do launch a new color. Overall, it's an excellent product. You have a really nice and responsive sole plate with conical studs, which give you versatility on both AG and FG surfaces. Now we move on to the beta edition, so the Neo 4 Beta made in Japan. Now this takes it to sort of the next level with a synthetic-based mesh material for the midfoot. You've of course got their version of knit in the lacing system area, which gives it a really close wrapped sensation around your foot. And of course the iconic leather in the forefoot, the same sole plate as the non-beta version and a very similar heel area as well. This boot sort of dials it up to 11 as far as technology goes, and also with the wrapped in sensation that you get from the beta version over the non-beta version. It's not as comfortable straight out of the box because of that mesh-based synthetic or that knit-based synthetic material in the midfoot, but overall from a performance perspective, it's kind of hard to argue with their top of the end leather speed boot. Now we move on to the New Balance brand, which has the Furon V7 Plus. It's a fully hypo-knit upper with the off-center lacing system, including that little cord-out canopy action that you have that sort of covers the top of your foot, gives you a larger striking surface. And then you have the sole plate that's been on the Furon for a couple of generations now, which is a pretty responsive sole plate that has all chevron studs, giving you a really nice amount of grip on FG surfaces. Probably wouldn't recommend it for AG, unfortunately, but for FG, excellent, excellent. From a comfort perspective, the Furon is probably one of the most comfortable football boots just in general out of the box, including obviously their little brother or sibling or twin, the Tequila. So New Balance's hypo knit upper is absolutely excellent, whether you're in the Tequila or the Furon. And of course, in this list, the Furon is just probably the most comfortable football boot out of the box in this list. It is excellent. I always go half a size up just from a sizing perspective, and it really is one of the lightest and most comfortable boots on the market. Now we move on to the Asics brand, which has a few different offerings, but I'm just gonna focus on one for today's list, and that is the main DS Lite Xfly Pro 2, which is a semi-new model for 2024. It features a unbelievably soft K-leather forefoot. You've got the SK Micro Synthetic in the midfoot. It's very, very similar from a construction perspective to the Neo 4 made in Japan, the non-beta version. And then you've got the Power Hold lacing system, which basically just means they've made it a little bit deeper and wider to give you a really nice customized locked-in fit, a stupid comfortable heel area with a suede lining, and then a really unique sole plate with areas of TPU that have been sort of cored out, so it exposes the waterproof mesh material that adds the structure and sort of the snapback, if you will, of the Xfly Pro 2. Overall, an incredibly comfortable football boot and a really nice addition to this football boot list. The last boot on our list is the Puma Ultra Ultimate. Now, this has the Ultra Weave upper with the dual density sole plate, and then you've got, of course, the power tape in the upper. I gotta be brutally honest with you guys, I kind of forgot this boot until the very last minute when I put it on here. I can just tell you now it's not gonna make either my own personal list or the top 5. This is a boot that I have knocked quite a bit in recent videos. I just don't think it's a great product. I do not recommend it because of how many other boots on the market there are and how many more better boots there are. Like literally every boot in this list is better than the Ultra Ultimate. That being said, for some people, it is a perfect fit. So, hey, I can't knock you for that. But in my opinion, it's just not a very comfortable football boot. It leaves a lot to be desired. Lots of people get heel blisters. And I would just recommend if you want a fully synthetic upper, go with an Alpha. If you want a leather one, go with a Asics boot or a Mizuno boot. And then if you want the top of the top, go for something else. You have a lot of options on this list. The Ultra is not one of them. So clearly there's a lot of boots in this list. Number one is this is the most popular boot category, and so pretty much every manufacturer has a quote unquote speed or agility boot in their rotation, in their lineup. One of their silos is going to be in this list. I know I've probably forgotten a few of them on the market, but these are sort of the main ones that I think most people are going to be considering when they're looking at a speed boot. The number two thing to consider is that out of this list, there are a lot of boots on this list, and every single one is probably not going to fit you. You're probably going to go to the store, and if you had all of them in front of you, you might only fit in a certain percentage of those. Those are going to be the ones that fit you the best, and those are going to be the ones you should buy. It's not a case of, I'm going to tell you it's X boot and you're going to go buy X boot. If they don't fit you, then it's not a great boot. That's why I like to make two lists in these videos. One, because, well, it's really important to rank what actually deserves to be technologically the best speed boot on the market. I think that's super fun. It's super awesome to see all the different tech. But realistically, I'm also going to give you my list, which is really the only important list, and you should make your own list at home because, again, everybody's feet are different and you're gonna fit in different boots to maybe your best friend, and that's okay. And so just keep that in mind when listening to my top 5. All right, so we are actually gonna do a top 6, which is fun for you guys. You get an extra boot in this list. And the reason I'm including a top 6 is because I do think the number 6 spot deserves to be talked about, and that is the Under Armour Shadow Elite 2.0. It is a excellent piece of technology. It is actually right there behind my head. A very cool football boot, super unique, super comfortable, highly aggressive and responsive as far as a football boot goes. It's probably the most responsive boot on this list outside of maybe the Vapor, but overall a really excellent product, and I think more people should take a look at it. The number 5 spot goes to the Asics DS Lite Xfly Pro 2. Now I know some of you boot nerds mostly who are watching this are going to be knocking at my door saying, why isn't the Asics DS Lite Xfly Pro 2 higher up on the list? Well, the main reason is it's not available in a lot of places. You can't just go in and buy it in a store in Australia, in America, in Canada, in Europe. Like it's only really available in Asia and Japan specifically. And so you have to import it, and there's taxes involved and all that stuff. So that's why it's not higher on this list. However, it is one of the most comfortable and best performing football boots on this list. And so I would highly recommend, if you have the cash to spend on it, or you have the ability to get it while you're on a trip abroad or something, I would highly recommend the Asics DS Lite Xfly Pro 2. The number 4 boot on this list is the Mizuno Alpha made in Japan. In my opinion, it is one of the most technologically impressive boots on this list. The little details like the Zero Glide tech, like the Carvo insert, the upper material is excellent. You've got a little bit of padding in this sort of grid-like pattern underneath the synthetic upper, which gives you this sort of combination of barefoot feeling and also having a little bit of padding. It's a really excellent football boot. And the Elite model is basically 95% of what the Made in Japan model is, except it just doesn't have a few of the features, and it's like 2/3 of the price. And so if you're not really interested in the Made in Japan model, which is the number 4 boot on this list, I would highly recommend going for the Elite model, which gives you a little bit of options. Now moving into the top 3, the number 3 spot is probably one of my favorite boots on this list, and that is the New Balance Furon V7. And the New Balance Furon V7, as I said before and tried to emphasize, it is probably the most comfortable football boot on this list straight out of the box, going half a size up to achieve that best like centimeter fit for your foot shape. It's going to be accommodating for most foot shapes. It's also going to come in both a wide fit and a standard fit variation, which is really unique for the football boot world. I don't know why more boot brands just do that in general, which is excellent. A lot of people have messaged me saying the wide fit variation of this boot is just the best thing since sliced bread, which is excellent, although not if you're like me and you're gluten-free. But that being said, the New Balance Furon V7 Plus is definitely top 3 for me. Number 2 on this list is the Nike Mercurial Vapor 15 Elite. Now, the Superfly sure is number 2 as well, but the Vapor, just as far as the technology that's in it, the way that it fits and wraps your foot, the responsiveness, the air zoom unit, it's unique, it's interesting, it's super fun to wear. It doesn't quite fit me well. I did end up wearing it for a few training sessions a year or two ago when it launched, and it is excellent. It is a really excellent product, and I'm super excited to see what the new generation coming out in a couple months of the filming of this video is going to be, and I'm sure they're going to upgrade it with some really cool tech. But for right now, the Vapor 15 Elite is a wonderful product. The fact that it comes in an AG sole plate as well is super cool. A lot of people on my Flower City team last year really loved the AG model, and it's definitely a football boot you need to try out if you are somebody who fits in that boot. Number 1 on this list is the Mizuno Morelia Neo 4 made in Japan, not the beta version. The reason for that is because the U-throat tongue, the standard U-throat tongue on the non-beta version, that's this number 1 spot, is so accommodating, and it's got a really wide and deep lacing system. It just allows you to get in, find the right fit, and just start playing. It is a boot that I need 0 break-in time for. It fits well, it's super comfortable, it performs really well, and it just feels awesome on ball, passing, shooting. The difference, one of the things that I've complained most about for the leather forefoot synthetic midfoot, like the boot that's right here, the 99-gram leather boot from Adidas, that the leather and the synthetic basically come into a stitch point, and that stitch point is really aggressive. It's like a really thin synthetic and a really thick leather, and that stitch point just causes a little bit of weirdness when you're striking the ball. Not with the Morelia Neo 4 made in Japan. The leather is so soft, it's so thin, the midfoot is just the perfect thickness in my opinion, and it really is number 1 on this list. There's really no way around it. It is excellent. Definitely have to try it if you are on the market for a speed boot. All right, so that is the top 5 speed boots of 2024 part 1. Obviously part 2 coming later in the year once this has all been shuffled up with some of the new products coming out. Now we want to move into my own top 5, which is basically just my favorite boots, the boots that I fit in the best. And we're going to start with number 5, which is the Mizuno Alpha Elite. Now the Elite model is not only better priced, but it's also a little bit different as far as the shape goes. The Elite model actually fits my foot really well. The made in Japan is just a little bit off for my particular foot shape, so the Elite model, for whatever reason, just fits me straight out of the box. It is really comfortable, it's fun to wear, and it is an awesome, awesome football boot. Easily top 5 for me. The number 4 spot goes to the Asics DS Lite Xfly Pro 2. It is a boot that I love wearing. It's really comfortable, it's very neutral. Per pretty much every Asics products, it's one of the most well-rounded boots on the market, in my opinion. DS Lite Xfly 5 is in there, DS Lite Xfly Pro 2, the Menace, really any Asics football boot. They're all built around foot shapes and foot health, which I think is a really cool thing. Easily top 5 for me. Number 3 on this list is the Under Armour Shadow Elite 2.0. It is super unique. It's very tech forward. The IntelliKnit upper is, in my opinion, one of the best knits on the market, especially with the way that they've constructed it, with all the different sort of weave patterns depending on what area of the foot you're in, just to create the most comfortable and the most responsive and performance-oriented boot on the market. Definitely more people need to try the Elite 2.0. Number 2 on this list is the Morelia Neo 4 made in Japan. It is a super comfortable football boot straight out of the box, and really the only reason it's not number 1 is because I prefer the perfect fit that I get out of the number 1 spot. And that number 1 spot, it's probably not a surprise to most people, is the New Balance Furon V7 Plus. It is an excellent football boot. It is so wildly comfortable. It reminds me of a super lightweight version of a lot of the power boots from back in the day, but a knit version of those. It is really, really excellent. It's so light, it's so comfortable, and there's really not much I can say that's negative about it, other than maybe the sole plate could be a little less aggressive and a little more accommodating for different field types, and that's really it. All right, guys, that is gonna be it for my top 5. Hope you guys enjoyed those 2 lists. Let me know down in the comment section below, what are your top 5 speed boots of 2024 so far? Hopefully this video will come out before the release of some of the new speed boots, so definitely let me know the answers to your list in the comments before that all drops. If you guys got value from this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are interested in more weekly boot content. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, be awesome, take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.